How y'all feeling? How y'all doing?
Welcome to 2%Pro. We keep it real.
No sugarcoat.
I'm Caleb.
I'm Rena. Let's get it. So today we will be continuing our mental health topic segment, whatever you want to call it. But today we're targeting more towards college athletes and the mental health of college athletes. To recap off of last episode on what mental health is, mental health includes your emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how you think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. Mental health is important at every single stage of your life, from childhood, adolescence, through adulthood. We also want to tap off of the statistics that we gave you guys last episode, and that is anxiety is top presenting concern amongst college students, with that being 41.6% of college students, following by depression at 36.4%, and lastly, relationship problems at 35.8%.
Yeah, now we'll talk about what we'll be discussing this episode, which is talking more about college athletes and mental health, which is understanding as an athlete that you're at greater risk for mental health.
Yeah.
And some of the things that kind of fall under that or that can kind of cause that are pressure to adhere to academic deadlines, combined with excessive sporting commitments, which I feel like is probably one of the main focuses. And then
for a
after
lot of
that,
college athletes,
yeah. And then after that is university is a time of transition where there are significant changes in one life. Psychological disorders are often found to worsen during periods of transition or change.
Which is huge because
yeah,
back in the first episode, I think we were just talking about how mental health plays such a big role in not only college athletes but all college students.
Yeah.
And honestly, anybody from after graduating high school, that first 5 years outside of school is huge because you're transitioning into adulthood.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, to add athletic pressures on top of that.
Yeah, which
is huge.
I think I said before that like the athletic pressures from high school to college are big because it almost feels like there's a gap in between because the changes are so huge. Like with any sport you play, it's just really big.
Yeah, it is.
And then the next thing was physical difficulties such as sleep problems, fatigue, aches and pains, including headaches, physical tensions, and digestive problems all play a role into athletes' mental health. And then the next thing after that were additional stressors include the potential of suffering serious injuries, getting cut from a team, or experiencing conflict with other team members or coaches. And then the last one was maintaining an image.
I mean, one, the additional stressors from serious injury, those are huge.
Yeah.
Because sitting on the sideline from an injury, from experience, from hearing other people's experience, that's really challenging to your mental.
Yeah,
it's really hard. Worrying about getting cut from the team after making what seems like a normal college student mistake.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of college students make mistakes, but as an athlete, your mistakes are worth more.
It almost feels like sometimes as an athlete, you're not almost supposed to make mistakes. Like,
yeah. Well, that's kind of how they put it because they're always putting, the students look up to you and all this other stuff. As in reality, a lot of students don't look up to athletes. They just see them and think of, lights, camera, action type deal. But they don't look up like I want to be like them type.
No, I don't think there are students that look up to athletes. I think there are students who sometimes get jealous, but that's not really an athlete's fault.
It is.
And it shouldn't be an athlete's. You shouldn't, as an athlete, it shouldn't be your position to worry about something like that.
Yeah, and they're always so concerned about the face of the school, the image of the school. And athletes, I think you said, bring in 40% of the revenue for schools.
I think it's 46. Ooh, I should have put that on there. I think it's 46. It's almost it's like right below 50%, which is crazy.
So like they're saying, they're basically putting the image of the school on the shoulders of the athletes because they know the school probably wouldn't have as much revenue and things without athletics.
Yeah, it's a large chunk of money that like you wouldn't be able to make up if athletes decided to stop playing.
Yeah, and then that goes along with maintaining image. A normal college student can post them going out and having a fun time, you know, that night, and their parents and people are gonna think, you know, they're just being college students. But an athlete, they have to keep that stuff on the low. That's why a lot of the times, you feel me, college athletes just hang out with other college athletes because those athletes know, hey, we can't post this. Hey, you know, you don't got to worry about that. Like, I remember a couple weeks ago, I was at a gathering, and somebody went on live, and I'm of age to drink, you know, but it just wasn't really the environment to post. It wasn't in public. It was kind of, it just wasn't the environment to post. And I was like, oh, get the camera away from me, you know? Like,
no, yeah, I agree.
And she didn't really understand. She thought I was being rude.
Yeah.
Because, you know, but I was like, nah, like, I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, I have an image to uphold. And sometimes that kind of gets annoying. Like,
it can. Because, like you just said, like, you're of age to drink. And sometimes, even if you post a drink or, like, post you're out having, you know, fun with your teammates,
people think you're not focused on your sport.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
it's like you can go and have fun every once in a while.
So all of those are definitely key factors to contributing to poor mental health of college athletes.
Yeah.
And going back to our last episode, as far as talking about our survey results, like 70% of college athletes of 100 we surveyed said that they were dealing with mental health. And I can almost bet if we asked the details, which we didn't because we were just trying to get general, you know, feedback, a lot of the factors probably would have played into this. And then one thing that they also didn't put is financial pressures.
Oh, yeah.
Financial pressures are stressors for adults, regular college students, and then especially college athletes. I'm not trying to make college athletes' issues seem bigger, but that's what we're focusing on right now. Yeah. And then, two, you know, athletes don't have the physical ability, and a lot of times they don't have opportunities to get a job to work with their schedule and to actually care about their physical maintenance. You feel me?
Yeah.
So that contributes a lot of athletes out that can't get a job, and they're stressed about school, money, you know, maybe their own emotional issues. You said 35% struggle with relationship problems, you know, dealing with all that stuff. So athletes, you know, there's a lot of things that contribute to poor mental health throughout athletes.
Yeah, I do.
There are a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think that's why mental health and athletes don't get taken serious a lot of the time. It's because of the misconceptions.
There's a lot of misconceptions, I'm sorry. One, we found a few general ones, but there are tons more. But one is that athletes are immune to stress outside of their sports.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like, you know, athletes are only athletes.
Yeah, and like it's kind of like a lot of people feel like they've been doing this for so long now, they should kind of be used to it.
Yeah.
But in reality, it just kind of doesn't work like that because there are so many different things that are changing consistently for athletes. And like, you know, if there's like in the collegiate world, like if you're changing programs, your program could be changing every single year. Like there are so many different things that could be affecting your mental health that people don't even think about. They just think like,
a lot of college students don't deal with the transferring process at all.
Yeah.
They go to a school and stay there. Majority of college students do not transfer.
Yeah.
But majority of, I'm not going to say majority of college athletes, but a really great percentage of them have transferred once throughout their career.
Yeah.
You know, that adds a lot to it. So the fact that a lot of people think that athletes are immune to stress outside of their sport is just insane. Like, they're people too. You know? Another misconception is being physically tough means that you can do it yourself. And I just find that so ignorant.
It is because your physical and your mental don't
Your
like,
physicality abilities have nothing to
with
do
your mental.
with your mental.
Yeah.
You can be the strongest person in the world,
You still
the
have mental
fastest
breakdowns.
person in the world, but that doesn't mean, you're right up here.
Yeah.
I think one time we was watching the game when the NBA started, the season started, and we was comparing LeBron with Curry, KD, and all the other stuff. And I mean, I'll say it, KD is a beast, and I think his skill set may be better than LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
And Curry has came up, and he's even made a huge name and respect for himself. But the difference between them and him is right here.
Yeah.
LeBron's mental it's different.
Yeah, I think
that's what makes him one of the greatest.
I think the bubble proved that was because, I think he even said it before the bubble happened, was that, athletes this is going to prove, what he was. I think he was like that some athletes are going to be able to do it and some are not going to be able to do it. And that's just true because
he verbatimly said the weak and the strong. And he means strong mentally. He doesn't mean strong physically.
Yeah, and that's true because, that's something that mentally you may not be able to do that. You may not be able to spend that much time away from your family. You may not be able to be isolated that long and not have those relationships. You just may not be able to do that. And if you can't, that's okay.
Right.
And I think that was one of the biggest things.
Yeah, so that's a totally ignorant misconception, but it's definitely a misconception of many outside of sports. Another misconception is that athletes are used to cutting out the noise of life outside of their sports once it's competition time. So, as for me, a basketball player, everybody says when you get onto the court for games or practice, leave everything that's dealing with you, that you're dealing with in life, leave it outside of the doors.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree but disagree with that.
It's I do agree because it's your job, and it is certain times you need to lock in and focus.
Yeah, but sometimes there are things you're going to be going through that are so detrimental that you cannot just focus on your sport. Yeah. And that's in life. If you're working somewhere, there are going to be things that are so detrimental that you can just not focus on this job or this task or this thing. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the key issues.
I think somebody said in the research that we was doing that it's okay for an athlete to take time off because of a physical injury. Mm-hmm. But it's not respected
if they do it mentally.
If they do it because they're dealing with something mentally, I need to go see somebody, I need help.
Yeah, Kyrie did that. He took off a game because he was I need a mental break, or
he got
and I was do y'all know how many games they're playing? 82 games this season. They're playing back-to-back games. Mind you, I couldn't imagine having to get on a plane one day and have a home game 2 days. The schedule is outrageous. And then people don't take into account things like jet lag, that type of stuff can mess with you mentally.
And they think because they're making millions, it's worth it.
I see that on social media so much. The things I would do to make millions. Oh my God.
You truly have to have a passion for it. And even sometimes a life like that takes the passion from you.
Yeah, it does.
Because, at this point, the NBA and the NFL, they're using these athletes as show animals.
Yeah.
You feel me? They're making money off of these athletes, so they're going to push them until they can't be pushed anymore. Mm-hmm. And then they still expect greatness because they love the sport. Just because you love something doesn't mean that somebody outside of you should be able to push you to the limits,
Yeah.
Those limits, it's unhumanly, honestly.
It is.
One more, there's actually two more misconceptions, but one is people assume that because the athlete plays poorly in a competition, they fail to prepare.
This is a big one because I think that this has become normal now. I an NBA player, NFL player can have a bad game and they're yo, what is wrong with him? You know what, that team needs to get rid of him. Yeah, I'm y'all do know someone can have a bad game. They're not gonna be consistent. They're gonna be consistent, but they could have a really bad night, and that's okay. That's acceptable. It's just that's what you go through as an athlete. You're not gonna be that you're not going to be on every single night. And I mean,
Yeah.
you should assume that you're going to be on every single night because that's what you want to do. But sometimes you're just going to have that really bad game.
Yeah.
And like on social media now, someone can have a really bad game and they're just like
And they're
bashing
gonna
them.
get trolled
Like,
on social media for having one bad game.
One bad game.
And they could have been dealing with anything. I know a lot of people say it's weak to blame issues on because of your romantic partner, right?
Mhm.
And for college athletes, I would say you might need to tough it out and focus more on your sport because we're so young and we're in college. But for pro athletes, you talking about like some of these people, LeBron and his wife have been together close for 20 years now, I think. Almost
they've
there.
been together since he was like in high school.
It's the
Something
mother
crazy.
of his kids.
Yeah.
It's his partner, you feel me? So, yeah, he's one of the mentally strongest.
Mhm.
However, like, you telling me if they get into it, a day before the game or the day of the game over something about his kids, or they might be dealing with something with their kids.
That's what I was about to say. Like, something could happen with their kids. That's another thing.
They're
Is
still
that, like,
expected to show up.
I think Melo said it. LaMelo said it. It was one of the Ball brothers that, like, they only post about 10% of their life on social media. And I was like, that is one of the biggest things people don't understand. They think because, like, they follow a celebrity, they are having the insights of their life. You're not.
Yeah.
You are only seeing about, I would say, 5 to 10% of that person's life.
Honestly.
And mind you, someone is not going to post a negative time in their life. Like, if LeBron is going through something, he's not going to get on there and be like, man, last night before the game, this is really what happened. Like, I found out, Bronny was doing this or Bronny was going through. He's not going to post that.
Right.
Like, and he
social
shouldn't.
media sources and what are those people called? Paparazzi?
Yeah.
Them and social media trolls, they post more about their lives than they probably actually post.
Yeah, than the actual celebrity does. Like,
yeah, so that misconception is hugely misjudged because people can play poorly because of a lot of situations, not just because they did not prepare. They could have had the scout memorized. They could have watched film. They could have put up 1,000,000 of those shots before practice or before the game. Mm-hmm. And, like, nothing is 100%.
It just was an off night. Like,
and this is the biggest misconception of mental health of athletes, is that athletes' mental health is prioritized.
I think it's the biggest one in the NCAA.
NCAA, pro sports, anywhere.
Yeah.
They all preach, we care about you guys' mental health. Athletes are taken care of, their mental's taken care of, they have resources. But it's not truly prioritized. Yeah. I get it. They've made athletics into a money business, so at the end of the day, a lot of higher ups are always thinking about money moves and not the fact that they are using people to make these money moves. Like, you feel me? It's not prioritized.
And I feel bad for the programs who do prioritize them, who do make them important, because you're taking a step in the right direction, but there are so many who don't prioritize it that outweigh the ones who do. So it is so difficult. But yeah, I think it is. And I think just an organization as a whole, for you to say, like, we prioritize mental health, but then in reality, if I'm going on your website and I'm looking for resources or I'm looking for surveys that you conducted about your athletes and things of that nature, and the last one I found was 6 years ago, you're not prioritizing it.
That's huge, and that goes along with the second point. Like, if it was so prioritized, this is research that would be done. You said they wanted to do it every 4 years?
Yeah, when I went on the NCAA website, it says the 3 surveys that we're going to talk about are done every 4 years.
And the last research that we found was from 2015, and then we found something in 2017, but it really had nothing to do with mental health.
Yeah, what we're talking about.
So that is definitely a huge misconception. But to go on about the NCAA, not having up-to-date research on mental health, when we all know that mental health amongst athletes, the topic is rising.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because athletes are losing that fear that it's so bad, that it's so negative.
Yeah, and not even that. I think athletes are losing that fear of losing their position. Yeah. And I say that because, like, I'll use the tournament last year, when you could tell the clear indifferences between the women's tournament and the men's tournament, like with gear. And the athletes were so comfortable with coming out and saying that and using their platforms, and I was so happy to see something like that. Like, the women's athletes were so comfortable doing that, and then you had coaches like Dawn Stanley who came out and was like, she was happy those athletes done that. However, these have been indifferences that have been going on for years. So in situations like, athletes are no longer being afraid of the NCAA. It's been so many years that people have been afraid to speak up, afraid of their programs, and it should never be that way. We're supposed to be alliance. We're supposed to be working together, and that's the biggest part, is that, like, athletes are not afraid no more.
Yeah, they brainwashed the first few generations of big-time athletes. And I'm just, like you said, it's great that this generation of athletes and the ones coming in too are not scared to, one, be themselves and speak up on what they feel is right. And with mental health being such a huge issue, and with it always being overlooked with athletes, they're finally speaking out on it. Because at the end of the day, I think athletes have realized that that school or that program won't be that program without the athletes.
It's the same thing I told you, is that all those people who have those positions and have those job titles, they have them because of the athletes. And it's about time the athletes realize that. And yeah, they can easily say, oh, we'll just go get a new athlete. But guess what? That new athlete is probably going to speak on the same situation that just happened. So you can keep trying to wipe out these athletes and get new ones, but it one, won't make it morally right, and two, these athletes are going to continue to press these issues until they get fixed.
Yeah, and that's why you gotta put yourself in the correct position before you speak out on something.
Yeah, I agree.
You feel me? So
I do agree.
If you're possibly what you might feel replaceable on a team, right? See how the best player of your team feels about the situation. Like, it's kind of okay for LeBron to speak up on something, or Sue Bird, or you feel me, like, or you feel me, like.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But then sometimes it don't even gotta be the best player, because I mean, Kaepernick situation. You feel me? Like, I don't watch football, so I don't know if he was the best player or not. I don't know. But even him, which they said he was a key instrument to their team. Yeah. And even him, like, was replaceable. You know, like, on that level. So.
But even so, of the idea of him being replaceable, this issue, this topic that he speaks on, will never go away. Yeah. It will never go away. So you may feel like you may be in a position where they feel like you're replaceable, and they may try to replace you, but don't never, like, shed away from your issue and who you are.
Yeah. And keep talking about it. Like, if you feel like this is something that needs to be heard, needs to be said, and your heart is in the right place while speaking on it, yeah, I don't see why anybody would shut up.
Yeah, don't let them take that platform away from you.
You know. So, back to the NCAA not having up-to-date research on such a detrimental issue amongst their athletes, and false advertising mental health being a priority, and it's not. They say that their support of efforts that promote a safe and healthy environment for college athletes competing in all sports, but genuinely we all see that the efforts are very few because of the out-of-date research and the false advertising of mental health being a priority. So from the research that the NCAA does have up, that was done pretty far back, they did a survey, and the survey consisted of about 20,000 student athletes across the country.
Yes, it did.
And in this 2015 study, 6 years ago, they found 30% of participating athletes reported feeling seriously overwhelmed during the past month. A third struggled to find energy for other tasks because of the physical and psychological demands of their sport. Nearly 25% felt mentally exhausted. Less than half of those who sought help for mental health issues reported satisfactory care from their team or university. So, we're talking about 30% of the
20,000. That's what I was about to say. 30% of 20,000
is 2,000. So 6,000. 6,000 is 30% of 20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So less than half of them who sought help. So that's less than 3,000 student athletes felt like they reported satisfactory care from the team or university. That's gross even for 2015 numbers.
No, it is. It's very alarming because, first of all, you have to think about the student athletes who are even comfortable with stepping forward.
Correct.
So approximately 20,000 were comfortable with stepping forward to the NCAA because, frankly, the NCAA could say, oh, it's anonymous or, oh, it's this, but no student athlete's going to trust you.
Right.
So 20,000 trusted you, and 30% of them, those are alarming numbers, especially in 2015.
And it probably was more, but
I personally feel like it was more because
as time has passed, we now know and can notice mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Even though 2015 wasn't that long ago, the amount of information that came out on mental health
has increased so much.
Has increased, and even our general knowledge of it has increased.
Yeah.
So the numbers are kind of understanding, but I can almost assure you that if they took this survey today, the numbers would still be lower than true numbers. And nobody would truly ever know the exact percentage of athletes dealing with it, you know?
No.
Because of lack of knowledge, lack of trust within the NCAA. They feel like that's the system. And then a lot of people are still not going to go out to get help.
Yeah.
And not to point out a certain demographic, but for African American athletes.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're about to say. I agree.
Mental health is kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's almost like, you can go to, like, you can go and be like, I feel like I'm dealing with depression or something, and this is probably going to get twisted up, and you're just going to be like, oh, you're just probably sad today. You're just probably, but in reality, it's like that person's probably really dealing with depression.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to go get help because, one, as far as for a lot of African American cultures that raised a lot of these athletes, it's kind of like laughable if somebody went to go get help from a shrink. That's what they call them, a shrink.
Yeah, that's another thing, yeah.
Like, I'm not going to talk to nobody about, my life. They don't understand.
And I think another thing with that is that, like, the whole idea of paying someone. I hear that so much. Why would I pay someone to tell me what my problems are, to talk to about my problems? I can just talk to you for free. I got to pay somebody.
Yeah, and I've been to therapy, counseling, whatever you want to call it. And it's like when somebody asks me, because I've been, should they go, I don't really have a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
Because when I went, it was a judge-free environment, I guess, and I literally I was an open book.
Yeah.
I told everything from A to Z. So much she probably couldn't even write on her notepad. She kept flipping pages, way too much. And it's important if you're struggling trying to figure out if I should go to counseling, it is important to request a counselor that might fall under the same demographics as you, race, age, maybe background. It's hard to find that. Like, I know a lot of counselors don't put that on their bio, I'm this, that. But
I feel like it's a little bit easier in today's age. Just because,
it is a little easier.
You can probably go. I think there's even a website now for therapists and like counselors where like it has their picture and like their name and things of that nature.
Yeah, but I definitely would suggest looking into, don't just go to any counselor, because I've been to 3. And actually I've been to 4. And what disappointed me the most was the first one I went to, right? She was black, young. Told her just a little bit of, what I had been dealing with in my life, because I was a freshman at that point. I had some at-home issues I was dealing with and some transitioning issues going into college and stuff like that. And she told me that I had my language. I had a lot of shit going on, and she did not have time for me on her schedule, so she was gonna refer me to somebody else.
No way she said that.
I swear to God. And I'm thinking, I'm talking to her. This is a black counselor. I feel like I'm relating to her. We cool. She understanding me. Just for her to tell me that. So that was like, I tried counseling again 3 more times. 2 at UNC Charlotte, 1 year at UNCW. And they were all younger, maybe older 20s, maybe young 30s, white women. And I would tell them, a little bit of my life background, what I was going through.
They probably can't relate.
Not even that. They just looked at me like I was a TV series.
I get what you mean.
Like,
yeah.
I've never thought of my situations that bad because I know people with worse.
Yeah.
So, when I would talk to them, usually my coaches made me go. So I didn't know what I really was talking to them for.
So you just started talking.
I just started talking.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was trying to get out of counseling.
Yeah.
And so if you decide you want to go to counseling, I would definitely look at the options of counselors you have through whatever service you're going to. And choose off of that. And then also ask yourself, what do I want from counseling?
That's what I was about to say. I'm about to say that, like, if you're going to do it, one, the biggest thing is that, like, counseling is something that, like, it's probably not going to be for everybody. And that's okay, and that's understandable.
Definitely might not
but
be.
also, if you're going to do it because you want to do it, but don't go in there closed off. Do counseling and be willing to really put your best foot forward and say, I'm really going to give my best shot at this. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. And maybe I need to look at another route.
Yeah, and be open.
Yeah.
These people don't know you.
They don't.
This is their profession.
Yeah, so, like, they got plenty of other people.
Rule is, what's the word?
Confidentiality
rules. They can't go on their social media and say, this athlete or this person is going through this. They can't say that. It's just like doctors. First of all, I have friends that are my age that are still lying to their doctors about stuff.
I see that so much. I see people on social media talking about lying to their doctors about sex. Are you stupid?
I'm telling my doctor everything because I need to know all possibilities of what could be wrong with me.
Yes.
So, if you're going to... Before you say counseling not gonna work for me, try actually opening up. Yeah. Because opening up to your friends is always gonna be a biased perspective and feedback.
Yeah, I agree.
Depending on what kind of friends you have, So, talking to a professional will give you an unbiased perspective on some of the things you are going through. And now that I'm telling y'all this, I'm thinking about how I might have benefited from counseling, but we're not going to go into that. But seriously, I mean, there's a lot of things, and it's not for everybody, but it's definitely an option that you should keep open.
I agree.
One more thing about the NCAA. They put this under their mental health category, but it has absolutely nothing to do with mental health. And that was a survey conducted in 2017. Now listen to this really close. Based on the responses of approximately 23,000 student athletes in all 3 divisions indicate college athletes are using marijuana and amphetamines at a lower rate than non-athlete college populations.
Hold on. They're saying that this survey had a larger number than the mental health survey. This one had 3,000 more.
Not even that.
Like, why even? Yes, that you're right. Why even is this a survey? But on top of that, this survey had 3,000 more than the mental health survey.
How do you know how many kids that aren't non-athletes smoking weed and using amphetamines?
Exactly. Like,
and why would an athlete tell the NCAA that they're using marijuana and amphetamines?
That's what I'm
surprised
saying.
That they didn't get. I'm surprised if 0 people. I would not be surprised if 0 people said that. Like
I'm like, first of all, these numbers are BS. Let's just be real, because no one is honestly going to the. athletes look at the NCAA as feds. So you mean to tell you telling the feds you smoking weed? There's no way. I don't believe it.
There's no way. I mean, but
this was on their website, NCAA's website. So
for them to put this under the subject of mental health, it just plays a lot in it. And showing that the NCAA truly does not want to talk about the real issues.
Yeah.
Of mental health.
Because why wasn't it a question
athletes.
Of what a percentage of athletes that are on anxiety or depression, or why wasn't that a question? Why was it? Why are you talking about marijuana?
They're more likely to tell you that I'm on a mood disorder pill than
smoking weed. Like, that doesn't make any sense now.
Yeah, so it just shows to how it's not prioritized.
Yeah, and how their heads are in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's being false advertised. And it could play into so many reasons. I mean, and they could have put why. Now, if they would explain this survey and say, There was
a little explanation, but I think it was dumb, so I didn't put it on there.
If they said anything about, did they say anything about athletes resorting to amphetamines or weed?
No, I don't think that's what it was.
Now, yeah, if they would have defended it and been like smoking weed for dealing with anxiety and depression and amphetamines because lack of energy and they needed to focus for homework, then that might play into like the mental health aspect of it. But this survey has nothing to do with the mental health. So why would y'all put that information out there? You feel me? Like, it just has nothing to do with
it just says that
that number of benefits. No, it wasn't no number. It just said lower rate.
It just says that they collect data on the substance use patterns of college athletes, and it helps the committee. I don't like what it helps y'all with what, and they claim that they did it on drug and alcohol use, but when you click read more, the only thing that pops up is weed.
See, and like the fact that they spend this much money, time, and energy and effort into collecting data on pointless information.
Yeah. When they could be spending money on mental health counseling and
on sending maybe a representative from the NCAA at different schools and getting a one-on-one with the athletes and being like, how is your program? The NCAA should create a rating for each college program.
I feel like that should happen once a month.
Okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot?
Because there's mad schools.
Okay.
Once a year, I feel like an NCAA representative should come.
Twice a year, so before the season starts.
But they got to ask every single athlete.
Okay, but we need to see. No, we're not making excuses.
That's a lot of athletes.
We're not making excuses. We need it. And guess what? We can look up the revenue of the NCAA. And mind you, y'all athletes not getting paid.
But we still gotta start small.
Okay. Fine, once a year, but the goal needs to be twice a year, before the season and after. They need to have a survey before the season, after the season, and look at that data and see how much it changes.
Or require student athletes to fill out a survey with effective questions that will give them effective data on the issues that are actively like putting barriers on athletes.
Yeah.
They need to, and say, you can't play this season until you fill out the survey. And it might only take 15, 20 minutes, but it would give you, one, it would require every single athlete to answer, and two, it would give you year-to-year data.
Yeah, and also they need to build some type of trust with athletes. Because currently I feel like they don't have no type of trust with athletes. Like, if they were to just send that out without any barriers.
They're the government of athletes.
Literally. Like, if they just sent that out with no, like, saying, like, if you don't fill this out, then you don't play.
Yeah.
I feel like less than half athletes would fill it out.
So, I definitely think, I might email the NCAA and tell them that.
We could do that.
Let's do that. But lastly, we wanted to shout out and also talk about some of the advocates in the athletic world that are currently speaking out about being an athlete and dealing with mental health.
Yeah, because that's big. There are obviously more athletes, but we decided to pick two. And on top of that, I think it's big to just understand that if you're an athlete going through mental health, looking up some of these advocates and listening to what they've said, or just reading what they said could also help you, because they may have been in the same situation as you, or in the same situation as you, or it could be very similar to yours. So it could also help in those areas.
Yeah, and just seeing somebody you might look up to, or
Yeah, exactly.
seeing somebody maybe not in the same predicament, because we have two pro examples.
Yeah.
But just knowing like there's somebody out there that feels a bit of what I'm going through as an athlete.
And I think even having two pro examples just proves that you can be on that next level and still be going through
like
these
money
situations.
won't make this
It
mental
won't,
go
yeah,
away.
it doesn't make it go away, which is a big thing
Which
to say.
proves money will never buy happiness.
It won't.
Which, I mean, literally it proves.
Yeah.
Because if you're dealing with it now in college and you don't have any money, and then you go to the pros and you see these pros are still talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And they have millions and stuff, and you still see it's an issue, that should tell you right then and there, if you believe money buys happiness, that should tell you right then and there that it don't.
It doesn't. Yeah. I agree 100%. The first person was Kevin Love, which I think is a huge advocate.
Yeah.
I think he even has a clinic in Cleveland. Don't quote me on it. But if he does, I'm going to link it because I think it's something like that. But it says after a panic attack during an NBA game in 2017, Love decided to share his battle with anxiety and depression in an essay he wrote for the Players Tribute. Love quickly evolved in a public spokesperson for mental health awareness among athletes. I was nervous about how I was going to be received, is what Love said, which I think was a big thing that he said, was how he was going to be received about mental health. About dealing with mental health, about speaking up about it, which I think is a big thing, especially as men. Men dealing with mental health, I think are one of the biggest topics, is that how are they going to be received when they sit down and talk about this issue?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be perceived as soft or, soft-minded, or they were raised improperly or something like that. It's just, honestly, it's so ignorant to think like that.
Yeah, it is.
And I think huge advocates for going against mental health are those dumb sport broadcasters that are just looking for any and everything to talk about.
Yeah.
About these athletes. Like, they just I get it, you're trying to keep your job, so you need to keep your show spicy or entertaining. But if you cannot do that without bashing somebody's personal issues.
Yeah, we talked about that briefly last time.
That should not be your job.
Yeah.
You really should rethink your talent. If your talent in life, if your purpose in life, I mean, genuinely, if I can speak to Stefan, what's his name? Is that his name?
Stefan.
Stevens.
Oh, Steven A. Smith.
I don't know his name.
I'm like,
Smith, Steven, whatever. If I could speak to him, because I've seen a lot of things about him and things that he's said. Like, if you feel like it is your purpose in life to bash another human being.
And it's crazy because he doesn't have to be like that. Like, some of his best takes, in my opinion, are when he's just, like, being himself. Like, he believes Kevin Durant is the best player in the world. And then 2 clips later, he believes LeBron is the best player in the world. Like, that's some of his best stuff. And then, like, he talks about issues with Kyrie Irving. Oh, you're being selfish. Oh, you're being... Oh, come on, man. You don't have to do that. Like, that's just...
So many people call him a bad teammate.
Yeah, like...
In my opinion, I don't think that makes him a bad teammate.
I don't think so either.
Like, and I felt that issue so close to me.
Yeah.
Because I was dealing with some controversial issues before the season with getting my vaccine and stuff. I'm not going to go too much in detail about it, but it really, like, see the things that people was talking about.
Yeah, I understand tremendously.
I think
I told someone like a week ago that I wasn't vaccinated, and they kind of was like, "You're not vaccinated? Like, why are you not vaccinated?" And I was
like an alien.
I was like, "Hold on now."
Like,
whoa.
They look at you like you're stupid,
like
you're dumb,
stupid,
or
like and then I turned around and I'm like, well, why are you vaccinated? My dad made me get it. So why are you asking me why I'm not vaccinated if you have no reason in the world on knowing why you were vaccinated? All you know is that your dad told you to go get it.
It's a lot. So I don't really, that's why I stay off social media as far as certain things, because the way people be bashing, especially athletes, and get into their personal life, like, Y'all just doing
once
too
you're
much.
inside of a program, you look at it tremendously differently. Like
Yeah.
once you've been an athlete, and then once you're inside of a program, you have different views on it.
And you understand everything more clearly once you're part of stuff. And that's why people who aren't athletes will just never understand. And it's not our job to make them understand. Because at the end of the day, it's nobody's job to make anybody understand anything.
Yeah.
But it's just people need to start living in a more open-minded perspective. Like we was talking about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yes.
Like just think about what possibly this athlete. Forget
and that
the
does
fact
not
that
mean,
they're making millions of dollars.
Yeah, and that does not mean like saying putting yourself in a college athlete's shoes is saying, oh well, I'll do anything to get free college tuition. That is not putting yourself in their shoes.
No.
Like, at all.
And what like yeah.
And what qualifies as anything that you would do to get free college tuition? Because I draw some lines on what I would do.
Like, dude, there's so many athletes. I forget the statistic you said last time. Like 60% of athletes have quit school. Or I think it was just college students.
I think it was 64.
64 college students quit due to mental health issues. So, like, that's just college students.
Yeah.
Imagine being a college athlete, you know?
Yeah.
So, the second advocate that we chose was Naomi Osaka.
I think that's how I think you said it right.
If you see this, Naomi, I'm sorry.
First of all, if you were to see this, repost this. Second of all, we are sorry that we said your name wrong.
Anyways, we support you.
100%.
Naomi said in one of the articles that we read that we're often sat there and asked questions that we've been asked multiple times before, or ask questions that bring doubt into our minds, and I'm just not going to subject myself to people that doubt me. And she said this, I'm assuming, because of press conferences that were forced on her.
Yeah. Because, when she came out about mental health and things of that nature, it was dealing with, speaking to she talked about how she didn't want to do any more press conferences.
And I completely get it, because one, it's always going to be annoying to answer repetitive questions.
Mm-hmm.
Two, for anybody that is great at anything that they do, you automatically have this mindset that if you're going to doubt me, if you're going to question me, if you're going to make what I want to do seem almost impossible, I don't want you in my circle.
Yeah, and it plays a role into, like, an example is, like, the WNBA Finals when the entire team decided not to answer. I think the entire Phoenix Mercury team decided not to answer questions after the game. And a lot of them, they got fined for it. And a lot of people were on social media saying things and were like, that's disrespectful. And I was like, they just lost a championship.
Something they've been working for their entire lives.
And on top of that, a lot of the questions, we already know what you reporters are going to base it around. Diana Taurasi had 2 technical fouls. Like certain people weren't doing they weren't on that night. And it's like, that's all y'all are going to base it around. A team does not want to continue to sit there and hear that after they just lost. They don't want to be dragged even more after they just lost.
And people on a pro level, they're already self-criticizing themselves.
Right,
they don't need the world to do it.
Like,
so for her to say this, I don't think shows anything but the mindset of somebody great doing something. You feel me? Like, to the best of their abilities. She's blocking out the negativity outside of her brain, because her mental. Because if you let that shit in, you're prone to negativity. You know.
I get what you're saying.
She also quoted that if the organizations think that they can just keep saying do press or you're going to be fired and continue to ignore the mental health of the athletes that are the centerpiece of their corporations, then I just got to laugh.
Yeah. Which just played a role into what we were talking about, which is what they always do. If an athlete doesn't do a press conference, they get fined, which is crazy because that athlete is making that story for those reporters.
Oh, I said fired. Do press or you're going to get fined. My bad.
But yeah, which it literally happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if she was just trying to be funny, but it is funny that because she's part of, how old is she? Let's look it up real quick. My bad, y'all.
Quick intermission. I think she's
No.
she's young. 30s? No, not 30s.
Hell no.
20s?
I don't say how old she is. 24. Okay, 24. I think, yes, 1997. She is part of Generation Z. She's in our generation. This generation of athletes, there's some in the millennials, you know, that are learning to speak out. But this generation, Generation Z athletes.
Yeah, you guys are not taking stuff anymore.
Athletes, gays, anybody that is dealt with a stereotype, it's not cutting it no more.
Yeah.
Nobody's scared of nothing no more.
Yeah.
My generation, we ain't scared of nothing no more. Like, we making people really stand on their 2 feet and show us if they ready to lose us or not, you know? So that's huge for her, honestly. That's huge for her to call them out on saying, y'all aren't nothing without the athletes. Not too many people have said that out loud.
And that's 100% true. Like, without athletes, who are y'all?
Who are y'all?
What
y'all
is your
no
next job
without us?
Yeah, like, what would you be doing? What is your backup plan?
Either be considerate and care about us, or you won't have a job.
Yeah,
I
agree.
After picking up her first French Open win, Osaka was met with a $15,000 fine for not participating in media requirements. She subsequently withdrew from the Grand Slam tournament.
Which just played a role into what she said. She was like, they're gonna fine athletes for not speaking and not answering these questions and things of that nature. And then the crazy thing is that, like, if they go into these press conferences and reporters say things and then the athlete doesn't give the answer that people are looking for, then they're going to get bashed on social media all night long and for the next few days because, oh, such and such said this or such and such said that. But it's like, they didn't want to do it from the jump.
Yeah, honestly.
So.
Yeah, and she's a big advocate for it. I'm not going to say who in my family, but, you know, me and one of my family members was discussing her withdrawing from the Grand Slam, and it was calling her weak, saying, you know,
I seen that on
as
social
a black woman at that high of a statue, you know, at that level, you know, you're showing weakness. Not that many black people get to stand on that platform, and you're taking advantage of it. And I was like, I couldn't say much because I knew what I had to say probably wouldn't be heard or understood. But I was just like, nah, dude, like, I feel for her. Like, I just said it within my head.
But I feel like that's the issue, is that, like, you're supposed to settle because guess what? Not many people have been in this position. So I'm supposed to settle and take all the BS that they're throwing at me because not many people have been in my position. Exactly. And I'm supposed to be grateful. But guess what? You can be grateful and still understand and know that I don't have to take nothing that y'all are giving me.
Exactly.
And I can still put myself first and be a great advocate for everyone else around me. And that's such a big thing.
A lot of athletes, not all, because I mean, a lot of our parents were first grads, but even some of this generation are first grads. So, like we said, the first episode, parents encourage them to put up with some of the things that college athletes deal with because it's a free education. They didn't have that, you know, or even if they were athletes in college, they didn't get a full ride like we get now, you know.
That's so crazy because I just seen this girl commit to I don't even know where it was, I forgot, but she was like and she did a commitment video and she was talking and she was like, some of the questions I was asking the coaches were, what are your next steps for me after college? What do you have in plan? Like, what do you have planned for me? And I was like, wow, your parents really got you set up. Because I promise a lot of these high schoolers were not thinking about things of that nature.
They're not.
And she was like, they were recruiting her from day one and were telling her that they gave her a whole plan of her life after college. And I was like, that is incredible.
Yeah, it is. Like, just, like I said, eventually I think it would change.
Yeah, it's going
within
to.
the next generation, because parents will start asking those questions.
Yeah, it's going to change.
What are they really? What value are they getting from this program other
really
than
offering?
a free education?
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for real for today.
Yeah.
We definitely just wanted to, talk about the greater risk that athletes are at with mental health issues and dealing with it. How the NCAA doesn't prioritize it as if they say so.
Yes.
And not even just the NCAA, pro teams, NBA, NFL, NBL, all these big sports names say they prioritize mental health, and they don't. It's false advertisement.
Yeah, a lot of these organizations are claiming that they're putting mental health first, and they aren't. They're just worried about winning that next game.
Correct.
Yeah.
And discussing the misconceptions on mental health, and lastly, shouting out some of the advocates that we have on here, and they're mad athletes that are coming out now.
Yeah.
Like, the numbers are about to start racking up. So we want you guys to know that when we send out surveys from 2%Pro, before we close it out, we just want to let you guys know that our surveys are always anonymous. You will never have to put your name in a survey.
Yeah.
And we're not no tech gurus who can go see whose PC this came from, or this is her, and look her up. No.
Yeah.
Everything's anonymous. We just want open feedback. We see and want you guys to see that our surveys are a safe place. And in order to make changes, not saying that 2% will be the one to make changes, but changes have slowly been made.
Yeah.
The more people speak out. So if you are not in a position where you feel comfortable speaking out on something, not saying we will speak out on everything, but we will find a way to get this word out there, to get, you feel me, like, these issues out there in the most respectful and just the most respectful way to make your voices be heard, because that's what affects change.
Yeah, it does.
People being heard, So we will continue to send out surveys, and hopefully you can continue to give us honest and true feedback, and let us, truly have feedback to take to higher places when we get there. Everything is a process, and we want everybody to be a part of our process.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you for listening. I hope you learned something this episode.
Yeah. Tune in next Sunday
for more mental health. And thank you. Peace out, yo.
Peace.